Today, I'm going to be reading 3 short horror stories written by ChatGPT. Now, we all know what ChatGPT is. It's the AI that writes a bunch of stuff and somehow passes the freaking bar exam. But today, I figured why not put ChatGPT to the test and have it write the scariest horror story. With that being said, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help me a lot. And with that, let's get into the video. Alright, so we got write me a horror story. Alright, so now it's just going to do its thing. It's going to write the little horror story. And so the first one we got up here is one that I'm going to title The Creature of the Night. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled deep in the woods, there was a legend about a creature that roamed the forest at night. Some called it a demon, others a monster, but all agreed it was best to avoid it at all costs. One fateful night, a group of teenagers decided to go camping in the woods. They laughed and joked around the campfire, unaware of the danger lurking in the darkness. As the night grew darker, the fire began to die down, and they huddled closer together for warmth. Suddenly, they heard a strange noise coming from the woods. At first, they thought it was just an animal, but as the noise grew louder, they realized it was something far more sinister. They could hear the twigs snapping under the weight of heavy footsteps, and the sound of heavy breathing filled the air. Trembling with fear, they quickly packed up their belongings and tried to make their way back to safety of their homes. But it was too late. The creature was upon them, its glowing red eyes staring hungrily at them from the darkness. As they ran through the woods, branches whipped at their faces and their feet became tangled in roots. They stumbled and fell, desperately trying to outrun the creature that pursued them. One by one, the teenagers were snatched up by the creature and dragged back into the darkness. Their screams echoed throughout the woods as they were torn apart by the creature's razor-sharp claws and teeth. In the end, only one of the teenagers survived. They stumbled out of the woods, covered in blood and shaking with terror. They tried to tell the villagers what had happened, but no one believed them. To this day, the legend of the creature in the woods lives on, and no one dares to venture into the forest after dark. Bro, what the hell? That's like genuinely creepy. Alright, so for our second horror story, we got one that I am going to title The Ones Who Lurk Within. In a small town in the middle of nowhere, there was an abandoned slaughterhouse that had been closed down for years. But one day, a group of curious teenagers decided to explore the old building, despite warnings from the locals. As they entered the building, they could smell the stench of decay and rot. The floors were slick with blood and the walls were covered in rust and gore. But the teenagers pressed on, eager to see what lay beyond. As they descended deeper into the bowels of the slaughterhouse, they heard strange noises echoing through the halls. The sound of grinding gears, wet slicing, and bones cracking filled the air. The teenagers felt a sense of dread creeping over them, but they pushed on, determined to discover the source of the noises. As they reached the final room, they found themselves surrounded by grotesque creatures that had once been animals. They had been experimented on by the owners of the slaughterhouse, and now they were nothing but twisted, tortured monstrosities. The creatures turned their attention to the teenagers, who were frozen in fear. With razor-sharp claws and teeth, the creatures attacked, tearing into their flesh and feasting on their entrails. The teenagers screamed in agony as their bodies were torn apart, their blood splattering on the walls and floor. The creatures continued to devour the teenagers, leaving nothing but bones and scraps of flesh behind. As the last of the screams died down, the slaughterhouse fell silent, once again with only the sound of the creatures' satisfied growls filling the air. The next day, the authorities found the remains of the teenagers in the abandoned slaughterhouse, but they never discovered what had happened to them, or the twisted creatures that had killed them. The slaughterhouse remained abandoned, but rumors persisted that the creatures still lurked within its walls, waiting for their next victims. Bro, this one was... To say this was gory is an understatement. Alright, so the final horror story that I'm going to be narrating for y'all is one that I have dubbed The Woman Who Came from the Shadows. Deep in the heart of a dense forest, there was a small cabin that had been abandoned for years. The locals whispered that the cabin was cursed, and that anyone who entered would never return. One day, a group of college students decided to investigate the cabin, thinking it would make for a fun and spooky adventure. As they approached the cabin, they could feel a sense of unease settling over them. The air was thick with the stretch of rot, and the trees around the cabin seemed to be dying. As they entered the cabin, they could hear some strange noises coming from within. The floorboards creaked under their feet, and the walls seemed to be pulsing with an unnatural energy. They were beginning to regret their decision to explore the cabin. Suddenly, they heard a voice calling out to them from the darkness. It was a woman's voice, soft and plaintive, and it seemed to be coming from the deep within the cabin. The students cautiously made their way towards the voice, feeling their hearts pounding in their chests. As they approached the sound of the voice, they could see a figure standing in the shadows. It was a woman, dressed in a long, flowing gown. Her face was pale and gaunt, and her eyes seemed to be staring at something that wasn't there. The students tried to speak to the woman, but she didn't respond. Instead, she began to walk towards them, her steps slow and deliberate. As she drew closer, they could see that her skin was covered in a strange black substance that seemed to be spreading across her body. Suddenly, the woman lunged at them, her mouth open wide in a silent scream. The students tried to run, but they were too slow. The woman caught them one by one, her blackened fingers tearing into their flesh and dragging them into the darkness. When the authorities arrived at the cabin the next day, they found no trace of the students. Only the sound of the woman's voice echoed through the empty cabin, a haunting reminder of the terror that lurked within. The legend of the cursed cabin grew even stronger, and no one dared to enter it again. Yo, not gonna lie, this one sort of reminds me of the last one that we just read. Like, it gave me this eerie feeling of just like unease, and I mean, we knew it wasn't gonna end well, but like, damn, this one just made me get the chills. Alright, well, hey, that's gonna do it for me narrating 3 short horror stories written by ChatGPT. Hey, yo, let me know if you guys like this video. I was on ChatGPT while thinking of this video ideas, and I was like, yo, this actually sounds like a really interesting idea and something that I haven't really seen, so I figured, why not? Let's put it out there. So yeah, again, let me know if you liked the video by leaving a like. Let me know what y'all want me to read next or do next in the comments down below, and as always, subscribe to the channel. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Thank y'all.